In today's episode of Today in World War II, March 12th, the Finns accept in principle the draconian peace treaty that the Soviets are offering to stop the Winter War. All travel is between Great Britain and Ireland is banned for a very interesting and important reason. Sadly, Anne Frank dies on this date in Belsen concentration camp, and the U.S. Third Army crosses the Moselle River near Koblenz, Germany. Let's get started. So we're wrapping up the Winter War. On today's date, March 12th, 1940, the Finnish president Kystikallio authorized his delegates in Moscow full powers to negotiate and conclude a peace treaty with the Soviet Union. The draft that they received from the Soviet representatives of the negotiation team was a relatively bitter pill to swallow. They made it ready for the Finnish delegation to sign. It called for Finland to give up 35,000 square kilometers of territory to the Soviet Union, which was about 10% of the country's landmass. It included the Karelian Peninsula and the Karelia area that was around Lake Ladoga, and this was Finnish ethnic territories. They spoke Finnish there, and they had to, and the entire amount of population that lived in those areas was about 12%. So the Finns were going to have to evacuate, resettle all 12% of their population, and also the Hanko Peninsula, which is a very strategic peninsula that juts out from Finland way out into the Baltics, or excuse me, the Gulf of Finland. They had to give that to the Soviets for 30 years for use as a naval base. I mean, that was pretty hard pill to swallow. But if you keep this in perspective, and compare what happened, what was going on at the time right now between Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. They were under complete occupation, and they were having tens of thousands of their citizens being deported to Siberia or murdered. So, under the circumstances, hey, you give up 12% of your population, or not give up, you have to evacuate them, give up 10% of your country's landmass. Under the circumstances, I'd be focused on what would have been the worst case scenario. So I think that the Finns' heroic fight and keep continually giving the Soviets bloody nose after bloody nose in battle, I think that that went a long way to being able to salvage what they salvaged. I think this just goes to show that this is how you deal with Russians. You have to punch them in the nose. You have to be strong. You cannot. I mean, peace gestures of goodwill are laughed at and seen as weakness. You have to be strong. You have to punch them in the nose if you have to. They only respect strength. And I've known that after being married to a Russian and having a Russian mother-in-law for 25 years. You have to show strength. Weakness, that's just an invitation for them to continue to stretch your boundaries, if you know what I mean. On March 12th, 1944, all travel was banned between Great Britain and Ireland, which was neutral. It was also heavily penetrated with German espionage. And the reason why the Great Britain made this decision was because, let's look at the date, March of 1944. What's going to happen in just a few months, April, May, June, less than 3 months, the D-Day invasion, the invasion of Normandy. They did not want that they look, you couldn't put a 100% bubble on this, but they were trying their best to do whatever they could to prevent the details of this invasion of France to be leaked to the enemy. So this temporary measure was instituted, and there was no travel to Ireland until after the invasion was over and moving forward. On this date, very sad day, very famous girl, Anne Frank. She's world known, her diary and what she went through and her thoughts and prayers. She was stuck in Amsterdam with her diary and hiding from the Germans. We all know the story, and I've read her diary. It's just incredible. It's a tragedy that she passed, that she was murdered by by fascism. Her diary left a message of hope and just gave us a window into what it was like and what that type of form of man's inhumanity to man that was. I feel bad about her. I feel horrible about it. And I just hope that we can prevent that type of horror from ever happening again, although it still happens. We just don't talk about that much in certain places. On March 12th, 1945, the U.S. Third Army crossed Moselle River near Koblenz, Germany. As I said, right now we are in the end game in Germany. The next to last step to total victory was to conquer and occupy all of Rhineland, which is what they were doing. And then now their next step is to get over the Rhine into Germany proper. There was already, the Americans got a lucky break with the bridge at Remagen. They had already pushed troops over the Rhine. The other ones were going to catch up. Patton, Montgomery were going to catch up very soon. And so it was almost over. Like I said, the war, for all intents and purposes, in Europe ended around the third week of April. There was still some fighting going on here and there, but for the most part, that was it. We're in the end game on that. Well, this is the end game for this video. I want to thank you very much for watching. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow.